All right, I can see people are checking in. So basically, I want to talk about the new bullets, the R1 and the R2 and the R2 Pro. I've got the R1 and the R2 Pro behind me, and I have been spending quite a lot of time with Bullet in the first place. I've been roasting, I think, pretty consistently on the R1 for 5 years, I think. I've got one in my summer house as well, and I just wanted to take this opportunity just before the new year to just go live and basically talk about this, and also give you a little New Year's present, which is a PDF where I have made a thermodynamic blueprint, as I called it, across the machines by executing what is called the standard roast in CoffeeMind's control competency pillar. So these standard roasts are not as aligned with sensory science and optimized flavor. It is rather a way to understand fundamental control principles. So I call it the thermodynamic blueprint of the machines. And it's pretty interesting to look at those differences side by side, doing the standard roast on all three, that really exposes the thermodynamic differences between the three. So you can get that PDF for free just by scanning this QR code. Then you'll get to a page where you will put in your email, and then you'll be mailed the PDF with the thermodynamic blueprint. And don't worry, you don't need to opt in for the newsletter, even if you get this PDF in your mailbox. So the R2 series and R2 Pro, R2 and R2 Pro recently was released. So that's why I just wanted to jump here in live and just talk with those of you who either have some experience or have questions. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. Then I will answer them here live. So please just throw me your questions. I got the R2. I think was it in June? I got a really early machine just to test it out, and then I've been working on the Master Your Bullet. The CoffeeMind Way it's a comprehensive e-learning program where actually, if you scan the code, you get the PDF for free, and then there's also a page where you could get access to this Master Your Bullet, the CoffeeMind Way e-learning with some bundled products. So there's a bit of discount that you can get that way. But I've been working on the bullets quite intensively, as I said, on the R1 for many years, and then the R2. I've really stress tested it and gone in all sorts of extremes to really get to know it the last couple of months while developing the e-learning. And it's really a pleasure to work with the bullets, the old one as well as the new one. Because they are extremely stable. And I think the stability is related to the fact that it's a pretty closed system, because the heat source is the drum, and there's a magnetic field that controls the temperature of the drum. So there's not a lot of steps from a heat source there's not a lot of intermittent layers, because every time you need to transfer heat from one element to another, so from for example, from a flame to the air, or and the flame to the drum, then there is a loss, but there's also a source of inconsistency, of variation. So the fact that the drum is kind of its own heat source with a magnetic field creating inductively heat in the drum, it really creates a lot of stability. So that's really it's really predictable, which lends itself extremely well to Coffee Mind's approach to coffee roasting, which is don't micromanage and don't improvise during roasting. So the idea is that, and that's the whole control competency in Coffee Mind's competency pillar framework that you can learn about later. The whole idea is Ben, fix my brows. What's wrong with my brows? I've actually just been at the got a haircut, so I'm surprised that my brows should be a problem. No, so the whole idea is that you shouldn't improvise, because if you do, it means that you haven't understood your machine. Because if there's anything that is a surprise, it's because you did something earlier with a variation you didn't know. So the whole idea is to expose the behavior of the machine, so that you know it well enough to not having to improvise. So that's the control part of it, and also from a sensory perspective. The control part of it is also understanding how much room you have for variation that will not show up in the cup. So that's a very important part of understanding control, having enough control, but also understanding what is enough control, because there is too much content out there where you see perfect alignment of curves that has been achieved by improvisation. I think that's a complete waste of time, and also misses the mark of what is enough, right? We as coffee roasters, our focus should be what ends up in the cup, and not what looks nice on Instagram or on blog posts. That's what you can get for free if you scan the code. You can get for free the thermodynamic blueprint of the R1, the R2, and also the thermodynamic blueprint of roasting only half batch size on the R2, because every time you change the batch size, you change the thermodynamic, and then you need to create a new standard roast. So given that I have quite a lot of experience with the R1, and also have quite a lot of experience with the R2 Pro by now, perhaps there are some people who's got some questions regarding the technology, the use of it, or whatever, other than Ben's comments on my brows. It could be nice with some more substantial questions. Generally, I would say, so Joshua has some questions. I'll just see how it progresses. But generally, the technology is really nice for, I think it's a perfect pilot roaster. Obviously, it's also a really nice roaster for home use. If you have a so Joshua McTurnan says, "Can you say hi to me?" Well, I can, Josh. Hi. If you have a question, please elaborate. I think it's a great technology for your summer house or even your garage or in your kitchen. You can actually put it under the stove top if you want, and you can just plug it into a normal house socket, which is great. But I think it's great for as a pilot roaster in your roastery. You can really experiment with an amount of coffee that feels like a real drum roaster, and then you can transfer your relative learnings to your production roaster, again using the standard roast as the reference point between the pilot and the production. As a sample roaster, I think it's a bit of a stretch because I systematically created standard roast down to 200 grams where it actually still worked pretty consistently. But below 200 grams, it felt like all of a sudden it lost reliability in terms of using the IBTS, the infrared probe. I wouldn't say I have done successful roast below 200 grams. There might be some points that I've missed, but just using Coffee Mind's control framework as it is, down to 200 grams was reliable, but not less than that. So in my mind, a roastery needs a sample roaster, which is, I've used Ikawa for many years, more than 10 years, I think. I really love that, the simplicity and the precision of those. There are also other small roasters, obviously. But I think any roastery needs a sample roaster, a pilot roaster like the Bullet, and a production roaster. You could also use the Bullet as a market tester. That's something that I really have recommended a lot of people, because if you have if you have an idea for a roastery, it's a really good idea not to get in debt before getting started. So getting a Bullet is a really affordable way of getting something that is, you could actually test out a market and accept to spend some extra time at the roaster, because you can only add 1 kilo. On the R2 Pro, you can add 1.2 kilo and get 1 kilo out, which is great. So you can basically, normally I would say 20 roasts per day. So that's 20 kilos out per day. And that's enough to create a lot of samples to test in your marketplace and see if there's a demand for the idea that you have. So I think it's a perfect roaster to start out, because you can test the market, you don't break the bank, and when you've proven the market and eventually go for a big production roaster, 15 kilos or more, then you can always use the Bullet as a pilot roaster. So you don't get bankrupt before even get started, and you don't have the stress of the investment of a production roaster in the beginning. So I think it's a good idea to just get started without making a huge investment. Another great thing about the Bullet is that you can use it as a tool for sensory training. That's another big part of the e-learning course that I've made, the Master Your Bullet the Coffee Mind Way, is that you can use it for your sensory training. We've been working with sensory training for at least scientifically for 10 years. Ida did a PhD in sensory learning, and basically everything we've learned about sensory training, I've tried to kind of put that into the program. So we are doing discriminative tests, which is triangulation, where you can use this roster and roast the roast profiles as part of the e-learning course. You're guided through the whole process. And even there's a software that helps you set up a triangular cupping with randomized numbers and randomized triangles, so that there's a whole guidance on how to make competition format triangular cuppings with the bullet, and an approach to measuring your sensitivity for roast degree. And then there's also material to help you with descriptive analysis. So you can consider the bullet pilot roaster and also a production roaster for early startups. But it's also a sensory tool, and in the e-learning program, there's a whole module about your senses and how to build your sensory skills using the bullet as a tool. So if there is any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll just check if I'm monitoring all chats. But there must be some questions because they just released this the R2 Pro. So hopefully some people have experience or questions about this. So just a second. Yeah. They are the R2 and the R2 Pro are also more professional in the sense that they have a more industrial kind of clickable detachment technology inside, where the R1 is a bit more fiddly, where you need to unscrew a few screws before you can take off the I don't know what to call this in English, but the control panel, so that you can get to the inner parts. And on the R1, there are some wires you have to be careful about, which is not a problem at all, actually. But the R2 and R2 Pro, you can just really click them right off. There's no danger of breaking wires or other unfortunate things. So it's much easier to clean the Pros. As I said, if you're just a home roaster, the R1 is perfect. It's not a problem to detach it or anything. But if you are a pro, it's a good idea to have these extra nice things. You can add a bit more coffee because they are more powerful, and it's also easier to clean. But I think the R1 is really an amazing platform already. So the R2 and R2 Pro is just kind of an upgraded technology as such. So I just wanted to jump live here, but it might be that people basically are on vacation. So if you don't have any questions, I just want to wish you a Happy New Year, and also that I will see some of you around in 2026. So please, if you have questions, write them in the chat in the channel that you are at. And if not, I think I will just call it just a second. All right. But have a Happy New Year, and do be careful with all the fireworks. Okay, I just got a question here last minute. Well, roasting, how successful is it roasting maximum batch size on the R2 is the question. Just a second. So I would say, well, how successful is roasting maximum batch size on R2? So the question is probably maximum batch size 1.2, and here I can tell you that it's extremely successful in the sense that there's more than enough power. And the standard roast basically is a way to speed test the machine, and on the R1 I would go maximum power for the first 30% of the roast approximately, because that's not too aggressive. And there are some very specific requirements for what does it mean to be too aggressive or not aggressive enough in the standard roast exercise. But on the R2 Pro, you can go to P14, which is way too much. My standard roast on the R2 Pro, I have the first and biggest flame size is only P12, where it could have been P14 because 13 and 14 is too aggressive. So, and that for me that's very successful because I want technology that is that kind of where I can go in all directions. So I don't want a technology where I don't have enough power. I want a technology where I have too much power, so I can just back off, because then I know that my creativity is never limited. In that sense, it's very successful because too much. It actually has too much power for 1.2 kilos in my opinion, which is good because then I can just back off. And it's still just a household plug, which is really impressive with 1.2 kilos. Was that your question, James? Otherwise, please elaborate. But this is actually exactly the question that is answered in the standard roast. And as I said, the PDF, the free PDF you can get by scanning the code, shows you exactly the standard roast that I just referred to. That will show you that the standard roast on the R2 Pro, the first flame setting is only P12, where it could have been P14. So please scan the code and get the PDF so that you can see for yourself. And in the PDF, the whole context of the standard roast is also explained a bit more in depth. All right. Any more questions? Yeah, and just James, just a follow-up answer on the R1. Sometimes I need to add only 900 grams to get sufficient speed with the highest power setting. So it says a lot about the R2 Pro, that even with 1.2 kilos, there's too much power if I max out the power. So it's significantly more powerful than the R1. But for summer house purposes, the R1 is perfect. All right. I guess that was it. So Happy New Year and see you soon.